Have you ever poured your heart into building something, your career, your family, your legacy, only to be told one day that it's outdated? That you're outdated? It's a quiet kind of pain, the kind that settles in when the world moves on without you. This is the story of Clara Hayes, a woman who built a fortress with her own hands, watched it be called obsolete, and refused to let her life's work, or her worth, be forgotten. The words hit like a cold wind through an open window. "We're rewriting everything," Rebecca Lynn said, her voice calm but sharp, as if she'd already stepped into a future where I had no place. She sat behind a polished mahogany desk, its surface so new it gleamed under the office lights, tapping her pen with the confidence of someone who'd never spent a Christmas Eve alone, fixing a system while the world celebrated. I blinked, my heart catching in my throat. "You mean the platform?" "The entire platform," she said, her gaze sliding past me to some distant horizon. "We're moving to a modern system, built for the cloud. What we have now, Clara, it's a relic. It can't keep up with where we're going." Relic. The word stung, sharp and personal. For 12 years, I'd given everything to the Trans-Global Freight Solutions platform. Every line of code, every safeguard, every night I'd missed dinner with my parents, it was mine. It had processed $18 billion in transactions without a single breach, a brick house that stood firm through every storm. And now it was a relic? My hands tightened in my lap. "That platform has never failed," I said, my voice steady despite the heat behind my eyes. "Not once. It's the heart of this company. You think that kind of strength is just old news?" Rebecca didn't look at me. "The board supports Dylan's vision. This is about the future, Clara." Dylan Cross, the consultant who'd strutted in 6 weeks ago, his suits crisp as fresh dollar bills, his mouth full of buzzwords. He talked about tearing down my house of brick to build one of glass, shiny, modern, but fragile. He'd never stayed up through a holiday rush, never felt the weight of a company's trust on his shoulders. He didn't know what it took to build something that lasted. My stomach churned, a mix of anger and grief. "Let me guess," I said, my fingers curling into air quotes. "You want me to document my system, train the new team, and then move to a strategic role?" Rebecca shifted, her polished exterior cracking just enough to show unease. "We value your experience. No one knows the system like you, but it wasn't built for where we're headed." I stared at her, 12 years of sacrifices flashing through my mind. 80-hour weeks. Missed Thanksgivings, my mom's voice on the phone asking, "Clara, when are you coming home?" A partner who left because I was always just one more bug away from being present. All for a system that never wavered. It wasn't just code, it was my life's work. My legacy. She slid a folder across the desk. "Here's the transition plan. We need documentation on all core modules in 4 weeks, followed by a 3-month knowledge transfer." I didn't touch it. "And then, we'll revisit your role in the new structure." Translation: once we've taken everything from your heart, you're gone. I stood, smoothing my blazer to hide the trembling in my hands. "You don't need an architect," I said, my voice low. "You need a historian to guide you through the ruins while you tear them down." Clara. I was already out the door, my heart pounding with a mix of fury and sorrow. In the hallway, I passed Dylan, laughing with a group of young developers, his voice carrying like a salesman's pitch. "With a new system, we can grow faster, shinier. It's the future." They gazed at him, dazzled, as if he held the keys to tomorrow. They didn't know what they were about to break. What no one seemed to remember or care to ask was that the platform's strength came from something I'd built myself. HazeCrypt, my own encryption system. Custom-crafted, like a family recipe handed down through generations. Independently licensed. Legally mine. It was the quiet guardian that kept our data safe, our clients secure, our reputation strong. Back in my office, I locked the door. The silence was heavy, like the quiet of my childhood home on winter nights, when I'd sit with my dad's old computer, teaching myself to code while my parents slept. I opened the HazeCrypt license on my screen and read every word, letting them anchor me. They could erase my name from their plans, but they couldn't erase me from the system. As I closed the file, my phone buzzed. A text from James, a developer who'd been with me since the beginning. Clara, you're the only one who gets it. Don't let them forget. It was a small spark of warmth, a reminder that not everyone had turned away. They didn't know it yet, but they would. They see the system. They don't see the story. That night, I stayed late, the office dark except for the glow of my monitor. The ticking wall clock pulled me back to 2011, when Transglobal was a scrappy startup in a warehouse that smelled of motor oil and hope. 15 of us, piecing together clunky scripts and spreadsheets to keep the freight business alive. It was messy, but there was magic in it, raw, unpolished, alive. I remembered my first meeting with Jackson, the founder, in a break room that doubled as the server room. He'd leaned across a rickety table, his eyes bright with ambition. Clara, I need something that won't break when we get real clients. Something secure. Something that grows with us. My hands shook from interview nerves, but I met his gaze. I can build that. But it won't be quick or pretty. He laughed, warm and genuine. I don't need pretty. It took 3 years to build that first platform. Not a patch job, a foundation like a house built to weather any storm. I'd leave after midnight, eating cold sandwiches from the vending machine, my eyes burning but my heart full. My parents worried. Clara, you're missing life, my mom would say, her voice crackling through the phone. Come home for Christmas. But I couldn't stop. I was building something bigger than myself. People joked I was part of the server rack. But I had a life once. Friends who'd call for barbecues by the lake. A partner who'd leave notes on the fridge, only to grow quiet as my late nights piled up. Somewhere along the way, I traded those moments for deadlines, for the quiet thrill of a system that stopped a hacker or saved a shipment in a snowstorm. Each victory felt like a promise kept to the girl who'd spent hours in her dad's garage, soldering circuits and dreaming of making something that mattered. The heart of that system was HazeCrypt. It started when I found a flaw in a common security tool, a tiny crack that kept me awake, imagining a breach that could ruin us. We handled sensitive data, shipping records, financials, cross-border rules. One mistake could end everything. So, I built my own safeguard, like a lock crafted by hand, layered with protections that adapted and endured. Not flashy, secure. My dad, a small-town lawyer with a knack for seeing the long game, taught me to protect my work. I licensed HazeCrypt to Transglobal under my name, with a clause. They could use it only while I was involved. Jackson signed it with a grin. We're a team, he said, his handshake firm. I trust you. That's what they don't understand. This wasn't just a job. The platform was alive, flaws, strengths, quirks. I knew what buckled under pressure, what stood firm. Now, they wanted to tear it down for something shiny, like swapping a family recipe for fast food. Dylan called my work old-fashioned, as if that were a curse. He didn't see the careful design I'd woven in, the records that tracked every change, or the near-perfect reliability we'd maintained for years. They were blind to what it took to build something that lasted. As I scrolled through old code, I found a comment I'd left years ago. For the nights we didn't sleep, Siege, 2013. It stopped me cold, a whisper from the younger Clara who'd poured her heart into this. I hadn't realized how much of me was still here. Before leaving, I backed up my notes, not out of spite, but clarity. As I saved the files, I felt a flicker of strength. They could take my desk, but not my story. There's a moment when you know the fall is coming, and you're powerless to stop it. For me, it was the quarterly review. I'd spent weeks crafting a plan to update the platform carefully, keeping its strong core intact. It was practical, built on years of lessons. But when I walked into the conference room, Dylan was at the front, his slides glowing like a sales pitch. We've studied the current system, he said, pointing to a gray box labeled old system. It's holding us back from growing fast and free. I froze. This was my moment. Instead, I slipped into a back seat, invisible among young hires and managers chasing the next big thing. Dylan flipped to a slide of bright arrows and floating shapes. The new system will be flexible, modern, built for speed. It was like watching someone plan to replace a hand-built home with a prefab kit, sleek but soulless. Questions? He asked, his smile daring anyone to speak. I raised my hand. Dylan, have you tested the current system strength? Or the risks of scattering sensitive client data across a new setup? His smile tightened. Modern designs are proven. We're not starting from scratch. That's not what I asked, I said, my voice calm despite the ache in my chest. We've had no breaches and near-perfect uptime. What's your plan's track record? Silence. Rebecca cut in. We'll handle those details later. Today is about the big picture. Translation. We've decided. Be quiet. The meeting blurred. Afterward, Ellen, a sysadmin in her 60s who'd been here since the warehouse days, caught me in the hall. You spoke for all of us who've seen too many fads come and go, she said, her eyes kind but fierce. Don't let them break you, Clara. Her words were a lifeline, but they couldn't dull the truth. This wasn't about building anymore. It was about looking good, about new faces and new promises. Back at my desk, I stared at Hayes-Cripp's files.
Mine.
The license was clear. It worked only with me here. I'd backed up everything, code, notes, memories. Not anger, resolve. The next weeks were a quiet unraveling. Meetings where I was essential but ignored. Tasks handed to younger staff. My team reassigned to Dylan's project. I felt like a shadow in my own life. In one meeting, a young developer spoke up. The security system's too complicated. Why not use a standard one? I swallowed a sigh. That complicated system was why we passed global audits. It watched every move, caught threats, kept us safe. But I just nodded, my heart heavy with futility. They kept asking about Hayes-Cripp. Is it free to use? Dylan asked, frowning at his screen. No, I said. It's mine, licensed under strict terms. We'll swap it out, he shrugged. Something simpler. As if trust were that easy to replace. That night, an email arrived from an old friend, now at a rival company. Heard Transglobal's throwing out your work. Their loss. Your system's a legend out here. Coffee soon? It was a shock. My work had a life beyond these walls, one I'd never fully seen. Then came the HR invite. Transition planning, 10 a.m. I didn't need to read it. I spent the day packing, tucking away a photo of my parents from my desk. My dad's voice echoed, build something you're proud of, Clara, and hold it tight. When I told my mom I was leaving, her voice broke. You gave them everything, she said. Don't let them take your fire. I hung up, tears stinging, but stronger than I'd been in months. I didn't have to break anything. I just had to walk away. 2 weeks after I left, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then again. And again. A text from Rebecca. Clara, the system's failing. Please call. Urgent. I didn't reply. I brewed coffee, sat on my porch, and watched the sunrise. This was the moment I'd seen coming. The moment they'd learn what they'd lost. The next day, James texted. Clara, it's a disaster. Logins are broken. Data's leaking. Compliance is in chaos. They went live, and it's falling apart. I read it twice, a quiet calm settling in. Not vengeance, but truth. They hadn't just replaced my system. They'd ripped out its soul. Hayes-Cripp wasn't just a tool. It was the foundation, guarding data, tracking rules, keeping trust across borders. You couldn't swap it for something off the shelf. Without it, their shiny new system was a house of cards. That night, James called. How bad is it? I asked, my voice soft. Catastrophic, he said, exhausted. Clients are threatening to leave. Audits are failing. Dylan's gone. Vanished. I laughed, bittersweet. And Rebecca? Falling apart. The board's desperate. They're blaming everyone. They'd bet on flash over substance, pushed out the one person who knew the truth, and were shocked when it crumbled. Clara, James said, they need you. The board's saying your name. I thought of my mom's words. Do good work and the world will notice. I'd done good work. Now, the world was noticing. Ellen called next. Clara, the young ones are scrambling. They're asking for your notes like they're scripture. Her laugh was warm, a reminder that not everyone had forgotten. I reread the Hayes Crypt license. Paragraph 7. Valid only with Clara Hayes' involvement. Termination ends usage rights. They'd ignored it. Now it was their reckoning. Rebecca's voicemail followed. Clara, please. We need to talk. About Hayes Crypt. About everything. Then a text. The board needs you. Call me. Or your lawyer. I called Catherine my lawyer, who'd helped write the license. They're desperate, I said. And they broke the rules. You've got them, she said. Let's make this count. 3 days later, I sat across from Rebecca in a law office, Catherine beside me. Rebecca looked worn, her eyes shadowed, her blazer loose. The collapse had taken its toll. We're not here for arguments, she said, her voice thin. No, I said, steady. We're here to fix your mistake. Catherine slid a contract over. 6-month consulting. Triple Clara's salary. Full credit. License on her terms. Rebecca's hands shook. I'll need the board. Be quick, I said. I've had other offers. And every hour your system's down costs you trust you can't buy back. As we left, Catherine whispered. Veltric Systems called. They want you to consult. Your name's bigger than you know. The words lit a fire in me, a pride I'd buried too long. They signed the contract that night. They had no choice. Walking back into Transglobal, the air was heavy. No buzzwords, no Dylan, just the tension of a company on the brink. James met me at the desk, his smile weary but real. You're a hero now, he said. I'm just here to do what's right, I replied, my heart aching for the work ahead. They gave me a bigger office, a hollow gesture after trying to erase me. Within an hour, I saw the wreckage. They'd torn out Hayes Crypt, patched it with flimsy tools that couldn't hold. No security. No trust. A pretty facade, but no foundation. The failures were inevitable. The leaks, devastating. For 96 hours, I rebuilt. Not the old system, the heart. I wove back Hayes Crypt, the safeguards, the trust. I didn't just fix their errors, I shielded them from their own recklessness. By day 5, the system steadied. Errors faded. Clients calmed. Trust returned. A young developer approached, nervous. Clara, your notes saved us. I didn't know how much went into this. His respect was a quiet gift, a sign my work could still teach. In every room, eyes saw me differently, not a has-been, but a protector. Rebecca called it a team effort in the debrief, but no one believed her. I wasn't a consultant. I was the consultant. The board chair pulled me aside. We were wrong, he said. We owe you. I nodded, my throat tight. It wasn't about me. It was the end of their blindness. Dylan was gone. Some said he'd moved on. Others he'd quit the industry. I didn't care. Rebecca left soon after, citing personal reasons. We knew why. But I wasn't focused on them. I felt alive again, like the Clara who'd walked into that warehouse, full of dreams. My dad's words echoed. Build something you're proud of. I had. And I wasn't done. Jackson called. I saw it all, he said over coffee in a diner, the kind my parents loved. You didn't just save them. You showed what matters. I'm starting something new, built to last. Your way. And you'll own it. Equity. Freedom. A new beginning. 2 weeks later, I joined Cypress Ember as CTO. 5 engineers. A fresh start. Full control over Hayes Crypt. I wasn't just holding my past. I was shaping my future. They thought they could erase me. They made me unforgettable. 3 months into Cypress Ember, everything felt right. Keyboards hummed. Whiteboards brimmed with ideas. Laughter spilled over late-night takeout. No politics. Just trust. We built a platform for healthcare, patient shipments, strict rules, trust across borders. A challenge, unless you knew how to build unbreakable things. I did. We used new tools when they fit, proven ones when trust demanded. Every choice mattered. At the core, Hayes Crypt. I shared a free version, open, adaptable. It spread fast. Engineers worldwide built on it, made it stronger. I kept the best parts for Cypress Ember, but welcomed the shared dream. I wasn't alone. I was leading. A year later, our platform shone. Experts praised its strength. Clients loved its reliability. Investors noticed, but Jackson and I weren't in a hurry. We were building to endure. Then came an offer we couldn't ignore. A healthcare giant wanted us. Not just our work, but our way. The deal closed 6 months later. I could have walked away, bought a quiet life. But I stayed. The work wasn't done. As CTO of the new division, my team grew to 50. Every engineer heard my story, not gossip, but wisdom. About what happens when you ignore the quiet builders. About why trust is worth more than flash. At a conference, I learned Dylan had tried to sell a knockoff of HazeCrypt. It failed when engineers called it out. My work had outlasted him, without me saying a word. I spoke at events called Resilience Architect. I smiled but share my truth. Build right, always. In Seattle, I saw Dylan pitching to skeptical founders. He saw me, froze, and slipped away. I didn't follow. My legacy spoke louder. Trans Global emailed. Not a problem. A plea. The board chair. Clara, we're sorry. You deserved better. Join our advisory board. I thought of the cake on my last day, the Relic label. I thought of my parents, who taught me to stand tall. I typed, thank you, but I'm where I belong. Send. I didn't need their table. I'd built my own. Looking back, I see it clearly. The nights alone, the coffee-stained plans, the silence that grew louder each year. I gave everything to build something true. And when they called it outdated, I didn't break. I built again. So, if they've ever called you outdated, remember me. Remember what it means to build with care. Your legacy isn't behind you. It's waiting to be rewritten. And this time, you decide the ending.